Yesterday when I saw you at the street party, I did say that I knew a couple of things that you might not know that I knew.
Yeah, and you said you were going to tell me today.
Yes. So I've decided I'm going to tell you today.
What are they?
Wouldn't you like to know? I'm building suspense. Okay, so you're a reserve driver. No, it's not. I didn't write it down
maybe
here.
you wrote it down, but...
So I want to know, obviously, last year you were so impressive in your 5-race cameo. And, of course, who would like to see this gentleman in a F1 car full-time? Your performance was incredible. But what I found out is that you might have had a slight mishap with the fluid straw.
How do you know that?
Because I'm a journalist and I dig things up. That's what I do.
I did. I had an issue with you can drink in Formula One. I'd never used it before, like the drink system. So when I stepped in, you have a tube that's in your helmet. And I didn't know that you were meant to cut it to length. I thought that when they put it in the helmet, it would just be, set.
So this is in Spa?
This is in Zandvoort.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So basically, I didn't use it all through practice, and then at the start of the race, I decided that I would use the drink system for the first. I wasn't even thirsty. I don't know why. I just thought it was cool that I had a drink system. So I decided on lap 2, I decided I'd have a drink. And the tube was so long that when I went to grab it with my mouth, it flicked up and it got stuck in my nose. Stuck in my nose. So I had it for probably, I don't know, four or 5 laps I was driving.
What?
And I couldn't get it out because I couldn't get my hand in there. So, it was a disaster. Luckily, we had a safety car and I could get it out, and I didn't use it for the rest of the race.
Oh, yeah. You're like, dehydration, come at me. I do not want this stuck up my nose. And it was obviously...
a tube, yeah, it was horrible. It was well in there as well.
Oh.
Wasn't pleasant.
But what we need to say is that you were still driving at incredible speed, concentrating on, oh my gosh, everything, still clocking out numbers, clocking out the times, and you've got a straw stuck right up your nose.
Yeah, but I mean, at that point of the race, I was just trying to get used to, obviously, the car. It was very early. It was wet as well, so we were on intermediates for the first sort of 20, 30 laps. There was obviously a lot going on, but it was an incredible experience, obviously, to do my first race. The main target was just not to crash the car, honestly, the way the conditions were, and to basically get through, because I think I knew that there was potential I'd be doing Monza the week after, so we wanted to use it as a test session, and thankfully we got through the race.
Well done. Hands together. Under duress, everyone. There's no way if I could absolutely do that. But sorry to embarrass you straight off the bat. That was pretty mean, wasn't it?
I don't even know how you know that.
I have my spies. Anyway, let's talk about the rise, because none of this comes easy. Absolutely not. And I feel like I'm so privileged because I've had a bit of a front row seat to fellow Kiwi drivers like Matthew Payne, and I actually had a chat to Ronan Murphy yesterday as well, and Ryan Wood, who's obviously just graduated from Super 2 through to Supercars, that's my world, and they're your mates. You grew up with them, and funny enough, quick story, I ended up on a road trip from Auckland to Taupo with Matt Payne. He was my Uber driver because our flight got cancelled. And we're driving around, and Matt Payne, if anyone knows who he is, he's very tall, very lanky, and everyone calls him Clifford the Big Red Dog because he's a lovely boy, I should say. He's 21.
He's a man.
He's a man, yeah. But look, it's quite a surprise that he's allowed to walk around unsupervised. Because he's just a little bit, he's so nice and so lovely, but he's
all over the place, Matthew.
I was trying to be polite. But the reason why I say it is because we were driving around, Auckland, and he said, it's so crazy coming back here. This is my hometown. He's obviously back there all the time, but what goes through his mind when he's going through his hometown is those times when, there might have been people that was telling him that he was dreaming too big. And people that were saying, you'll never make it. What are you talking about? And he mentioned yourself as well, that there were people back in the day that just didn't believe in you, but you it's now nice, as Matthew said, to come back and go, you know what, I never listened to that, and I made it on my own terms. So how do you feel about that?
I mean, I grew up with Matthew, so we went to preschool together. So I've known him since I was like 2, 3 years old, and he's kind of the reason I got into go-kart racing, because my family didn't come from a racing background. So I went and watched him do his first go-kart race at like 6 years old. And that was when I knew that, you know, I had to do this. And so we basically grew up go-kart racing together. And obviously it's hard to make it in motorsport, especially from New Zealand. So it's something we both dealt with a lot growing up. Is obviously it's not ideal, but obviously quite a lot of negativity around trying to go big and things like that. And yeah, I'm sure he had probably had it a lot as well growing up. But I guess when you're set on something, you don't really care what people say. So it's pretty cool. He's obviously made it now in supercars. I was watching his race in Adelaide, obviously here. Last year, I was in Abu Dhabi in a hotel room watching it, so it was obviously cool to see him, and I'm excited to see how he goes this year as well.
And yourself, with your own mindset, you know, to get to Formula One, it is the pinnacle. Like, how do you keep yourself just going and going and going when, yeah, you've had massive success like we see last year, and then this year it's obviously a different story for you?
Yeah, I think it's different. Obviously, I always imagine what it would be like to be in Formula One, and now obviously I know what it's like because I've driven. So maybe it makes it harder. Obviously, I want to be in there full time, so working towards that. But I think just knowing how rare the opportunity is, knowing how big it is, you know, obviously maybe it's frustrating at times, but I guess I have to remind myself that.
So we're going to have Gunther coming up very shortly, but I want to hear from you. The behind the scenes of Formula One, who's maybe not as nice as we might think they are?
I think people would probably be surprised who is more nice than they think.
Nicely done.
I'm going to do that rather than the negative. Max Verstappen is actually away from the car, a very, very nice guy, and a really genuine person. Obviously, he's very committed and competitive when he's driving, but away from that, he's really nice. So when I first stepped in Zandvoort, he was really nice, really open to talk and sort of give advice. Obviously, he was pretty comfortable at that point. He was winning the championship by a country mile, but he's obviously, extremely competitive. Even when he'd won the championship and things weren't going right, he's obviously gets pretty heated about it. But away from the car, he's actually a really, really nice guy. That's
awesome. And who's the funniest? Who cracks you up? You can say yourself.
No, it's not me.
Oh, okay.
I would say. I mean, Daniel's a pretty funny guy.
Yeah.
I would say Daniel out of the car is pretty entertaining. Yuki as well. They're probably a combination of them two together. They're pretty entertaining. But I grew up racing. I say grow up. I raced Yuki from when I was like 16, 17 years old. So I've known him for a while.
He always says that, yeah, he learned, along with Gunther as well, learned a lot of his English from, you know, being at the pub or online.
It's the worst, honestly. Working with racing teams is the worst way to learn your English because the vocabulary is, it's terrible.
So let's get to know Liam Lawson away from the track. What do you enjoy? You know, obviously motorsport is a massive part of your life, but how do you unwind from it? How do you kick back and just, relax?
I play guitar since I was a kid, so I basically play guitar sometimes. Pretty generic stuff. I do like a little bit of gaming as well. I've just started a YouTube channel as well, so now I'm trying to become a YouTuber.
Plug it. What's your handle? Tell everyone.
Oh, it's Liam Lawson.
Liam Lawson, YouTube. Perfect.
Please give me a subscribe on YouTube. Thank you. Other than that, I'd say I probably spend most time, honestly, playing guitar, like jamming out with friends, especially when I come home.
That's fantastic. And we need to talk about Drive to Survive because you are in the current season that is rolled out. And Drive to Survive, how has that changed your life? If you feel like you can't walk down the street now?
I think it's definitely obviously changed things for me. I think it's good. It gives a pretty good behind the scenes of what goes on. And it's turns... I mean, it has probably turned, not myself, but some of the drivers more into sort of celebrities rather than athletes, honestly. It's weird. When I watched, I mean, obviously the latest season came out, and I played it off the whole 2 months leading up to it. I played it off like I didn't care, and then 2 days before, I was honestly panicking about how I was going to look, because honestly, they leave you mic'd up, and you do an interview, and then you just leave, and sometimes you forget it's on you, and you don't know who else is mic'd up, and it's it can be a bit sketchy sometimes. So, but obviously they do a good job at sort of showing what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, you were saying yesterday at the street party, sometimes you completely forget that someone else could be, having a microphone on them, and you might have that moment where you're like, oh God, what did I say?
And you don't see the camera guys either. They're just, sometimes you look around and some dude's hidden in the bush with his camera, and he's just looking at you, and you don't know he's there. So, sometimes it's not ideal.
And we're sitting next to the Rodin FZ, owned by Zagami. Gosh, it's a beautiful car. I stare at it sometimes and just lose myself in that car.
It's cool, yeah. It's really, really cool. It's been cool to drive it on track. Obviously, it's more in its element on a really high-speed circuit. So there's 1 or 2 corners here that are quite high speed, where it's where it feels really, really good. But obviously on a bigger circuit, it's going to be quite a lot faster. But it looks good and it drives good.
And talk us through your weekend. It's been so full on, but how have you enjoyed it?
It's been cool. It's been really, really cool. It's obviously my first time at this festival, so I've seen it over the years, just through pictures and on TV and things like that. So to be here is really, really cool. You guys are amazing for being here underneath this incredibly hot marquee. It's very, very warm. So thank you very much for sitting through it. And in general, the atmosphere here has been really, really cool this weekend, so it's been nice to be a part of.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Put your hands together for Liam. We love having you here. Now, I did talk to some people prior to this, and thank you for agreeing to do a fan Q&A, because this is all about getting to know you, and who better to ask the questions than your fans. So, we're going to come straight down here to the front. And I'm going to run around. I'm sorry if I'm messing with my camera folk here, but please tell us your name and fire away with your question.
My name's Vicky, thank you. And I was wondering, how do you mentally and physically prepare when you've got such short notice to leap into a Formula One car last year?
The short answer is you don't really have a choice. You basically, you kind of have to. I always imagined, obviously, what it would be like to get told you're going to be a Formula One driver, and you imagine it sort of the end of the year, having a couple of months to tell people and sort of get ready for it. I didn't expect it to happen the day before. It's something you just have to do. Fortunately for me, I've had a performance coach for quite a few years now, since I first moved to Europe, and he's been a big part of helping me sort of deal with the pressure of being a Red Bull driver and also stepping into Formula One.
Thank you very much. You were quicker than I anticipated. Come on up over here.
Hey Liam, my name's Ethan. First of all, congratulations on stepping into the car last year at such short notice, where you outperformed your teammate 4 out of the 5 occasions and knocked Max Verstappen out of qualifying in Singapore, which we were all probably happy to see. Be honest with me, don't be too modest. How confident would you be stepping into that Red Bull if you got that late call up sometime this year or maybe next year?
I think the thing is, if it's mid-season, it's hard to have ultimate confidence to go in and perform, because obviously the guy I'd be stepping in alongside has been doing the whole season. So it depends. If it's obviously if I'm stepping in next to Max, it's going to be quite tough. But I think it depends. If it's the start of the season, I mean, ultimately I feel ready for Formula One, and I tried to show that in the races that I did. But it depends. If it's the start of season, I'd probably feel quite good. If it's mid-season, there's a level of added pressure, I would say.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you very much for your question. Who is next? Yes. Oh, I can sit next to you on this one. Save me back. How good's that? Name and question, please.
So my name is Harva. We know you like Cars. What do you think of the prequels? Like the movie Cars?
The prequels?
Yeah. The second and third. What do you think of the movie?
I mean, yeah, the original movie's the best, in my opinion.
Agreed, yeah.
I'm glad you guys agree. I think I do like all the movies. The second movie is pretty cool. I remember when the second movie came out, because it had a Formula One car, I was excited about it. And then the third movie, I mean, I was pretty devastated that that Lightning
one made me
didn't,
cry,
didn't
actually.
race.
I hated that one.
I'm hoping. I've seen loads of. I don't know if they're real, but loads of talk about maybe a fourth movie coming out. So I'm hoping that there will be. Yeah.
Liam Lawson endorses Cars 4.
100%.
We need to make it
100%.
happen.
And I would love to play, like, I don't know if we can speak to Pixar, but I'd love to play a character, like a voice. That would be my dream.
That would be so great, because Mark Winterbottom did it. He did it in the Aussie version, and he played himself. So it can happen.
I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. Over to this side of the room. Does anyone have any questions? Fire with your name, and then fire away with your question, please.
Hello, Liam. I'm Griffin. And with your great success last year for AlphaTauri, out-qualifying Verstappen and scoring more points in one race than Sargent did in his whole season, what are the chances of you getting a full seat in F1 next year?
It's a good question. It's hard. Honestly, it's hard to say because obviously it's not my decision. So I think there's definitely I have more of a chance now than I did. Doing those races definitely helped. But yeah, ultimately it's hard to say what those chances are. But obviously it's what we're working towards. So yeah, that's really all I can say.
How many times have you been asked that question, do you reckon?
Quite a few times.
Well, you answer it extremely well. Thank you so much. Fire away with your name and your question.
Hey Liam, I'm Kate. So obviously this is very hot and humid for Adelaide standards, but nothing compared to Qatar. I saw a video of, I think it was Max and Carlos. They were saying like you want the race to be over after 2 laps to you and kind of revving you up a bit. How did you feel hearing that, knowing like these seasoned drivers were like, damn, this race is hard? And then how did you feel afterwards as well? Like, did you feel success or how did you feel?
Qatar was the hardest thing I've ever done physically, just because the main reason, racing in Super Formula last year, I actually had to lose a little bit of weight, because the average driver weight there is quite a lot lower than Formula One. So I was kind of under the weight that I would, feel comfortable at, or, my ideal weight. And then stepping into Formula One last minute, I had to kind of try and put it on quite quickly. So Qatar was tough. I remember looking down at my wheel and seeing lap 25 of 56 or something like that. And by then I was like already completely finished, honestly. I was felt like I was passing out going down the straight. It was really, really rough. But you don't know that everybody's struggling. So at the time, I thought maybe it's just me. There's no way I can stop, obviously, because if I'm the only one that's feeling like this. And it wasn't until the end of the race that I came in and I walked into the FIA area and all of the drivers were just lying on the floor, absolutely wasted. So yeah, it was a rough race.
You did great. Oh,
Thank you.
Did great.
Thank you.
It was awesome to see.
Excellent question. I think she's after me job, Liam. Anyone else, any questions? Oh, come on over. Please come on. No, come on. That's the trade-off you have to have. You have to stand up and look him in. Oh, ice pack.
Can I borrow that?
She's got an ice pack.
That's such a good idea.
Such a great idea. She's got 2.
So you can have one.
Sorry, name and question.
Jenny, hello. It was just a thought that went to the question that you just answered, that my partner and I commented on when we were watching your episode of Drive to Survive and talking about that heat, is that in any other workplace or even any other professional sport, there's generally like a work health and safety thing that events are cancelled or things are cancelled if there's a certain temperature limit that's met, and what you just said, like you're almost passing out, driving 300 kilometres an hour. So, yeah, I guess just talking to the, health side of things, or how crazy that is that you are pushed to these extreme limits and your body is on the line. And if you think that's actually okay, or should there be, a few more rules around that?
I honestly, I have very kind of mixed feelings about it because in a way, like quite often I get asked, why do you train? Like, why are you physically training? Because all you're doing is driving a car and pushing pedals and turning a steering wheel. So, but after Qatar, we had quite a lot more feedback from people that were like, oh, I didn't realize it was that, physical. So in a way, it was kind of cool to show that it's that, extreme. And when it's, I guess, those few degrees higher than normal, it makes a really, really big difference. Obviously, there is a certain point you can't go too far. And I knew there were quite a few drivers that were in a worse way than I was after the race. So, yeah, I'm quite mixed on it. I think, obviously, you can't push it too far, but in a way, it shows sort of how tough the sport can be.
Sorry, we're just arranging ourselves so we can see you. We're just over the
See
back
ya.
here, Liam. I was commenting on this T-shirt. How cool
That's
is
such
it?
I had one of those when I was a kid. I had one of those.
Great. I
Yeah,
love
that's so
them.
cool.
Thank you. My name is Kelly, and I'd like to know, is your only racing idol an animated race car, or were there actual drivers you looked up to?
Well, yeah, number one is Lightning McQueen. But when I was a kid, my first hero was actually James Courtney. So I watched supercars as a kid. My first go-kart number was 18 from when he was with, when he won his championship with Jim Beam in that car. In Formula One, in the early days, I was a Lewis Hamilton fan, honestly. Like, I read his book. It was probably the only book I ever read. And I looked up to him. And then as I got a bit older, it was the New Zealand drivers who were pushing sort of Formula One. So when I was 10, 11 years old, it was Richie Stanaway, Mitch Evans, Nick Cassidy, those guys who were pushing towards Formula One. They were sort of the guys I looked up to. But ultimately, it is Lightning McQueen.
Thank you.
So great. So great. And, do you know JC now? Have you met
Yeah, I
and
met him
chatted
for
with
the first time yesterday. It was quite a cool moment. And we were on track together yesterday and today. So I was chasing him down, had a little battle. I was in a van. He was in a supercar. It was cool.
He's fantastic. He's such a great guy, and I think it's wonderful at the moment. He's one of our most seasoned guy in supercars. He's one of our only two champions. So that's really cool that you met one of your childhood heroes right here this weekend. Cool. Yes. Oh my gosh. Hello. How are you?
Hi, my name's Anthea. Hey, Liam. Bit of a two-part question. One, which other driver was the happiest for you after the races? And two, if not Red Bull, where would you like to drive?
The second part of that question is quite tricky.
For several reasons.
Honestly, I would say Max was really, really good to me in those races that I did from the first weekends through. He was always really open to talk. At the European races, Red Bull has like an energy station and they have driver rooms, and mine's basically was next to his. So quite often I would speak to him in that sort of station, and yeah, he was always really good to talk to, and he was pretty positive about the races that I did. So I would say Max. And to answer the second part of the question, obviously I've been with Red Bull 5 years. This is my 6th year with them, and they are the best team in Formula One. So if I could choose, I would 100% drive for them. But obviously I want to be a Formula One driver ultimately. So that could be anywhere.
And of course, no matter where you end up, Liam, we'll support you 1,000%. Won't we, Adelaide?
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to probably sorry, sir, just get you to stand up just so Liam can see you. Name and question, please.
Hi, Liam. I'm Toby. Just as you were talking about with your one of the idols being when you used to use 18, it's just a random quick question that I thought in my head. If you made it to Formula One, do you have a specific number that you think you'd race under? Obviously, because you get to pick your race number.
Yep. Yeah, I do. So my number is my number is 30. If I could pick, it would be It would be 30, and basically not long after being a fan of JC, when I was in my early years of go-kart racing, I worked very closely with, he was like my coach or, go-kart coach, and I used to idolize him when I was a kid, and he was number 30. So since probably 8 years old, I ran number 30 all the way through until now. So when I get to choose, that would be the number. And I have closely watched everybody on the grid to make sure that nobody's running it, because there's like a 2-year rule that if somebody has it, you have it for 2 years. So right now, it's still available.
Good stuff. Can you imagine if actually, no, I'm not.
No, don't say that.
No, I'm not saying anything.
I know what you're going to say.
No, shush, Charlie, don't ruin it. The relationship was going really well until you said that. Sir, sorry to stand in front of you. Oh, sir, please name and question.
Andy, Liam, how do we get more Formula 2 champions into Formula 1?
It's tricky right now, honestly. Formula 1 is, I feel like it's becoming harder to access. And obviously I was lucky to have my chance. Ollie Behrman had his chance last week and showed that it's completely achievable to step into Formula 1. It's obviously a big step, but with the preparation and stuff we do, especially as reserves, you spend so much time with the Formula 1 teams that even if it's just simulator driving, it's very, very accurate, and we're doing a huge amount of it. So obviously I feel like it's accessible, but I guess for Formula 1 teams, it's hard to take a risk with a young driver, especially if they have the option of an more experienced older driver. I wish I could change that, but honestly, I don't know. I don't know what really we can do about that.
Thank you for your question. Anyone else on this side while I'm here? Oh, perfect. If I get you to come this side of the speaker, please. Otherwise, we're going to get a really loud noise in our ear. Name and question, please.
Hi, my name's Edward. I was just wondering what it was like being around the Netflix crew and what their boundaries are and how they respect those boundaries.
There's not much boundaries, honestly. It was a very unique style of filming. That's something that I hadn't really done before. So we would always do, I was saying yesterday, we would do these interviews and they would mic you up like normal. You'd do the interview, and then sometimes they would just leave the microphone on you, and you'd just completely forget it was there, and you'd wander off and talk to people about random stuff. And there'd always be, you'd look around, and occasionally you'd see some dude with his camera, sitting in the bush, just filming you. And then you realize you're mic'd up, or you don't know when somebody else is mic'd up when you're talking to them. So, yeah, it's pretty different. The people themselves are really, really nice. The crew of Netflix that are doing the film, they're really, really nice. It's almost, an illusion, because then you sit down and do these interviews and they just grill you with these really tricky questions. So it's definitely unique, but it gives a good insight, I think, to the backgrounds behind the scenes.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you for your question. Anyone on that side of the room? Because we're getting down to, oh, there we go. Thank you. We're getting down to the last few minutes before we jump into our signing session. Come on, sir. It's a very nice hat you got on there. Name and fire away with your question. Oh, you're very tall. Hold on.
Sorry. I'll step off.
Thank you.
Hi, Liam. My name's Todd. I actually wanted to change the tact a little bit here and ask, I follow your YouTube channel. Watching the Forester GT build is quite good. Just wanted to know a couple of things. What's the next project car after the Forester, and what would be your ultimate road car to own?
So the Forester is coming along nicely. We had some dramas, but there's a lot more coming out with it in the next couple of weeks. And I mean, these kind of builds are something I would love to do in the future. I think it's really, really cool. Obviously, to do it for charity as well is very, very cool. So I would like to keep doing them, but it's a secret. I can't tell you what the next car is. So I do have some good ideas, though. And the last part of your question?
What would be your ultimate road car?
Ultimate road car. To pick one car is so difficult. Honestly, it's tricky. I think Porsche right now are making some very, very good cars. I'd say something like a 992 GT3 Touring probably is the ultimate. Maybe it's not that practical, but I would make it work. So, yeah.
Nice. Cool. Thanks for that.
Wonderful. Thank you for your question. And I guess it's a great time to say that if you want to know more about that secret project, subscribe to your YouTube
Subscribe
channel.
to the YouTube, exactly. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, thanks. We're together. Yes, sorry, I believe it was you, sir. Come on over.
My name's Dominic, and thank you for taking my question. I guess from being your time at High Tech in Formula 2, and my opinion, narrowly missing out on the Super Formula title last year. In your career, what's been your ultimate race? I think you've had some great races, haven't known a lot about you, never focused, but what's your ultimate race that you remember and why in your career?
Honestly, it's got to be one of the Formula 1 races just because it's Formula 1. So Singapore is my most sort of memorable race. Obviously, I scored points there, but I had my parents there, and it's a track that I always wanted to race on. So Singapore's probably the most. But honestly, other than that, outside of Formula 1, it would be a race that I did. It was actually in New Zealand in the Toyota Racing Series, and it's the race that got me my Red Bull contract. So yeah, it was like the first round of the season. We didn't really have a plan for what we were going to do in the 2019 season. So doing that Toyota Racing Series was a bit of a last resort. And after that first weekend, I had a Red Bull contract, which obviously was a dream come true, and it was from a specific race there.
Thank you.
Excellent question. Thank you, sir. Fire away with your name and your question.
Hi, I'm Maggie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. I was just wondering what you think about the amazing work that Susie Wolf has done for the F1 Academy and what you think about that program.
Sorry, say that again.
Sorry, Susie Wolf's
Yep.
her involvement in the FIA Academy.
Well, I saw it for the first time last week in Saudi. So, and I actually went and met a couple of the drivers, which was really, really cool. Obviously, all the Formula 1 teams, I think all of them are behind it. Yeah, and it's I think a really, really cool program. The racing was really good as well. The cars that they use in Saudi, at least, the racing was really, really close. So yeah, I think it's a cool program.
Awesome. It's good to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please fire away name and question.
My name's Christian, and who was like the first person that you told that you were in the Formula 1?
It was, I mean, it happened very, very quickly. So I basically, when I found out, I didn't even call anybody. I just text my parents and said basically, I'm driving tomorrow. Love you guys, but I gotta go. And I spoke to them after the weekend. But yeah, but with the nature of the way it all happens, yeah, I didn't really have time for a phone call. So I text them, and that was probably about it. And I text my girlfriend as well. So.
Hey Liam, I'm V. My question is, out of the races you did last year in Formula 1, what was your biggest oh crap moment, and how did you get yourself back into the race and clear your mind?
It was the very first session I did was FP3 in Zandvoort. Wasn't even a race. And I had the whole team that was basically saying, you know, build into it, get used to the car, but obviously it was wet and really tricky conditions. And I remember, I mean, Formula 1, with how fast the cars are, it's basically about confidence, how much confidence you have with basically your feeling with the car. And when you first step into it, you have none, like absolutely zero. So it was getting used to driving the car was really, really tough. And the first session was really, really tricky. And I came in afterwards and I sat down with Dr. Marco, and he was very disappointed with how I went in that first session, and I knew I had to basically race the next day, and that was probably the most concerning moment of the whole 5 races.
Everyone, thank you so much for your questions, and it has been an absolute honour to spend time this weekend with Liam Lawson. I've got to say, on a personal note, you are one of the nicest guys I think I've ever met. And everyone around you, a wonderful Hannah, who has been here all weekend as well, but we wish you absolutely all the best, and we truly hope you'll come back if you can next year, hopefully in full-time Formula 1. But Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please join me in thanking Liam Lawson.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.